Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bryan's Basement. Today, as promised, we're going to be looking at Policenauts for the Sega Saturn. We'll discuss a little bit about the pilot disc and the game, so let's get right into it. Alright, thanks a lot for checking out another episode of Bryan's Basement. Really appreciate it. That last video was my first video to make it over 100 views, so I'm really excited about that. Thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's get right into it. Policenauts. Well, Policenauts is a point-and-click adventure game that was developed by Konami, and Hideo Kojima was the lead on the game. He conceptualized it. It was developed originally for the PC 9821, which is a Japanese home computer made by NEC. Later, it was the pilot disc for 3DO was made. And on the pilot disc, this came out in 1995, in I believe April of 95. Someone will correct me if that's wrong. And on this disc is just, I believe, the prologue for the game. I'm not really sure, I haven't played it, but it came out well before the Saturn release, which came out in September of 96. So, as I said, it's a point-and-click adventure game. Like Snatcher, it uses the light gun. So there are light gun sequences where you shoot stuff, there's target training, all that good stuff. So there's like a fun little light gun integration of the game. And yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. It's really awesome. So before we get into the meat of the review and start discussing things, I want to show off what's inside the box, because I like to do that. So let's get right into that. Here we go. So as you can see, it's got a nice outer cover, very nice plastic. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Just like the presentation is, you can tell they thought it out very well. So it's got, for those of you not familiar with Japanese CDs, they usually have a spine card. Saturn's no exception. And then the contents of the game itself. It's a 3-disc game. So, and you know, now that I think about it, the first disc is incredibly short, and that's probably because it's just the contents of the pilot disc. So I'd have to look into that some more. Here is the game itself, just to get a look at that artwork. Beautiful. Comes with, you know, your registration card and another spine card. No picture on that one. A double spine card. So anyways, here's some of the artwork inside. Very nice. I love the artwork on the CDs. I think it's like quite beautiful. The game has a space theme. I'm going to discuss more about the theme later on, but basically you're astronauts who are police in space. So the name Policenauts kind of fits after that. I just love these Saturn boxes. I like the long boxes, but the multi-disc long boxes, they leave something to be desired. So in here you've got your standard manual, you know. It's got everything you would expect, just some information that I can't read, and some nice pictures. There is like a little DRM type of thing in here that older like PC games, like I know a lot of Amiga games, Commodore 64, they would reference like a decoder ring in the game, and this is no exception. You do end up needing this later on in the game, so if anybody's stuck, know that you got to go to the manual, and there's probably a scan of it online. So that's just one thing I wanted to add. But you know, just it's very like reminiscent of Snatcher, the text in the manual. So I like that a lot. Just a good manual. Some more neat little pictures back here. You know, you get some character bios, so that's neat. And then here's what I really wanted to go into is the art book. So here we'll flip through it. I'll do my best to talk to the camera, but I gotta look and make sure that all of this is in focus. So here you go, the art book. So we start off with the characters of the pictures of the lead characters, Ed Brown, right there, and Jonathan Ingram, right there. You can see the resemblance to a certain buddy cop movie from the 1980s, Lethal Weapon. What? Sorry. And you can see there's some more artwork here with some of the mechs, and then I really like this, like the motorcycle and the car, just this concept art, really neat stuff. And then just a picture, this is in the game, of the Policenauts themselves. And then we also get a photo of Jonathan Ingram. Oh, these are like character bios. So, you know, here you can kind of see the characters and some of the artwork that was created for them that ends up being in the game. Here you go, some more people. Trying my best. This is like an awkward position to be doing this in. There's a nice like cell. I love that they included cells in here. It's really neat. Like, for those of you who aren't familiar, cells are heavily used in anime and like other animation. You know, Disney, I think, pioneered the technology, so it's really neat that they include some of that stuff in here. I mean, sorry, that one's backwards. So there you go. I think it's supposed to look like that. It's pretty sweet stuff. And then this one's cool too. I like that one. It's just some cells with some neat little backgrounds, and I think like this picture and that are the same thing. So that's pretty neat. And then the computer graphics, which are just like a lot of the robots from the game. The robots have like names of like famous people associated with like the space program, like, you know, Goddard and von Braun. So there's a lot of that in here. You can see that in the names for the robots. So just some neat supplemental information. Like, you can really see that this was a big release in Japan. This was a big deal to get this kind of a treatment, you know, to get like a deluxe edition. I feel like early on, probably more common in Japan, but in America we really didn't get deluxe editions of things until much later. So I feel like this is very special. I'm doing my best to show off the pages and not look completely awkward. I'm not really sure what's flipping through right now, but I'm sure it's cool. So yeah, I just wanted to show this off, and then there's some stickers that they included. So that's pretty awesome. I'm glad these are still here. But yeah, there's neat little stickers. I've noticed that they do include stickers a lot in manuals. I have like a Famicom Disk System game, and there's stickers in that too. So I hope like you enjoyed this. This is pretty cool stuff. So this really got the treatment back then, and it's just it's a really just excellent game. So let's continue on with the review. Let's get right into the meat of things. So yeah, all right. So Policenauts. Well, first of all, before I do anything, I have to thank the team that translated this. If you go to policenauts.net, you can see all the logs and all the information about the translation. The team, Project Ito, that translated this game deserves so much praise. I mean, there's a lot of text in this game, and I'm telling you, it's like a freaking encyclopedia with what they've done, because there's so much, like, you know, there's just so much knowledge packed into this game. So there's sometimes not enough explanation in the dialogue that you get between the characters, so they give you this encyclopedia that goes through all of the acronyms, and any just weird, you know, weird thing that hasn't been explained previously will be detailed further in there. So I really like that about this game, and it's just, and when you read through those encyclopedias, I mean, you could sit in there for literally hours. The first time I played the prologue, it took me like 3 hours to play through. When I was going back and getting footage for this, it took me like an hour less to play through the whole thing. But like, you can really get lost in the amount of detail. So thank you for translating this. And just to give you an idea, they started this project in 2009 and didn't finish it until 2016. So it's 7 years that it took to translate this game, and I'm just so happy they saw it through. So thank you to the team that did this. You've my gratitude, and I'm sure plenty of other people. And I mean, what a treat for us to be able to play this game. I mean, it's excellent for any fan of Hideo Kojima. This game is just, it's incredible. So to give you a little bit of background on the game, basically, as I was mentioning, and you saw in some of the manual, Jonathan Ingram is the main character. His partner, Ed Brown, they worked at LAPD in the 90s, and they were selected to be part of a program called the Policenauts, where basically there is a colony that's being built in outer space, and there's a group of the best police officers in the world that are selected to be the police nauts, the police astronauts, I guess, you know. And they're selected to be the police in this colony. But a malfunction happens during a routine maintenance operation with Jonathan Ingram in basically a manned spacesuit, where one of the thrusters shoots off and it shoots him out into space. But he is able to crawl into a cold sleep ball, and he stays there for like 30 years. And the game picks up after he is awake for about a year and a half, 2 years. So it's very interesting. I mean, it takes place in the future from like 1996. So a lot of these events are taking place like in the past, like 2018 and 2013 and stuff. So, but it's cool. I mean, it's an ambitious look at the future. So I always love Hideo's look at what could have been his alternate realities. So it's and this is no exception. It's really, really cool. I mean, it deals with some really complex themes like drugs being manufactured, and I mean the distribution. It gets really into like the whole, you know, aspect of like pharmaceuticals, because as I forgot to mention, when the game starts, you go through a little point and click adventure scene, and then your ex-wife Karen Hojo comes to see you, and she says that her husband Kenzo Hojo has been missing, and she wants you to look for him, and you say you'll think about taking the case. And basically that is the story of the game. She gives you some clues, and you have to kind of go from there and investigate, and a lot of things happen, and it's really, really awesome, and I cannot recommend it enough. I mean, this game comes from a point in time in Hideo Kojima's career where he's coming off Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, and he's about to make Metal Gear Solid. So, I mean, this game, I would say, is like right smack dab in the middle of his best work. So, if you're a fan of Hideo, definitely check this out. You will not be disappointed. I mean, it is just, it's so incredible the amount of detail that he put into this. And apparently, he thought of this idea in like 1990 during the development of Snatcher. So, it's really awesome to see that this is like, it's basically the spiritual successor to Snatcher. So, if you like Snatcher, you haven't played this, finish watching this video and then go play this game. Or pause the video, play the game, come back and finish it. That might take a little while, so just finish the video first. I'm kidding. Do whatever you want. But yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. And if to be able to play it, you would need a modded Saturn, something that can play either CDRs, or you have an SD reader in your Saturn so you can load up bins and queues. On the website I mentioned, policenauts.net, there's instructions for how to set this up. So if you're interested, definitely look into it. It's out there, it's accessible, it's awesome. I love it, and it's just classic Hideo. I mean, it's incredible. The themes, the story, the immersion, it's all there. And I just love that technology never held Hideo back. It was always just, how can I get my idea across with the means that I have available to me? And I just think that's really cool. So another cool thing is the anime in this game is done by the director Masaru Oshii. He did Ghost in the Shell and Policenauts, so the artwork is incredible. I mean, it just has like a production grade to it. So when you're playing through the game, it's like almost like you're playing an interactive anime in a lot of ways. So I really just love that. I love that the caliber of people they got to work on this game is just it's next level. So it is really, if you're a fan of anime and Hideo Kojima, and you know, maybe you've heard of this but you never realized you were able to play it, definitely come back and check this out, because I can't stress enough how awesome this game is and how much of a treat it is to anyone who's a fan of Hideo Kojima. So some of the things that I kind of wanted to hark on from the game that are very like Hideo, some examples of just the immersion that you get. One thing that I really love is there's like a sound check in the game. You get to a point where you reach Kenzo Hojo's house, and he has a CD collection on the wall, and you can go through and listen to every CD, and it's just like a sound check in the game, and it's awesome. It's such a unique way to do a sound check, and it really like immerses you. Like I sat there my first time and just listened to every CD, and granted you find a clue by doing that, but you don't really have to listen to all the CDs. You can kind of just breeze through them, but it's so cool that they did the sound check in that way. I just think it's really neat, and I really, really like that. Another aspect that's really cool is for you MGS2 fans out there who, you know, Fat Man, the bomb guy, and the whole Bomb Squad tie-in in MGS2. It kind of harkens back to Policenauts a little bit, because Ed Brown is X-Bomb Squad. So there's a part at the end of the second disc where you have to defuse a bomb. This part's a pain in the ass. It took me like almost 3 hours to beat this part. Last night I was up there doing screen cap for over an hour and a half until I beat it. I finally beat it. I'm so happy I beat it. In retrospect, it was really cool. You have to do multi-stage disarmament of a bomb. So you have to like cut some wires, you have to move like a magnetic piece out of this maze. You have to unscrew a plate in a certain order, and like when a light is blinking, and then basically you have to cut more wires that lead into a box, but they're like it's a crazy maze that you have to go through, and it keeps blacking out. I'll show some screen share so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. But anyway, at the end, you're left with 2 wires to cut, and basically there's a part in the beginning of the game where when you're talking to a certain individual, he mentions a little tidbit, and since I had just played the beginning of the game for the screen cap, I was like, oh, I know this, and I picked the one that I thought it was, and yeah, it was wrong. So just really cool. I really love that you can, being a fan of Hideo's work, you can see where it went, and it's just, Policenauts is really cool. It's the seminal work of Hideo Kojima, and you should totally check it out if you're a fan. You'll definitely see that and more. I don't even want to talk about any of the other stuff, because some of the other shit blew my mind as a fan of Metal Gear. So, that being said, there's one more part about the immersion that I really loved, and this is just like small stuff, but like it was really like something that stood out to me. When you're on the plane in space going to Beyond Coast, the colony, there's like a sound effect that the sound engineer puts in there, and it's like this high-pitched like noise. Really, it would be an annoying like buzzing noise, but they put it in with the sound of the rockets, and it gives you that effect that you have on a jet when like your ears are almost popping. So it's just like small details like that that really like they just really make me love this game. And then lastly, it being a point and click adventure, there is no shortage of lewd remarks that you can make to all of the people in the game, you can really be quite an asshole to the women. So they didn't hold any punches back on this translation. They might have even thrown in a little bit of their own flavor, but hey, if you did all the work, that's totally fine. So just a warning, it is definitely not for kids, this game. So it's really interesting. This game was being brought to America for the Saturn by Konami, but they scrapped it. I believe it was too much text. Probably, I could imagine why they would do that. Who knows, when this would have been released, it might not have even been able to come out for the Saturn. I suppose it could have been released for the PlayStation, but who knows what they were doing. But anyways, so the game wasn't released for America, but in a way, I couldn't see how they could release this in the form that I'm playing it right now, because there's drugs, I mean, there's talk of prostitution, there's all kinds of very, very adult themes, and, you know, like I was saying before, the speech options, and just there's all sorts of things that you can do that definitely are in the original code of the game. The people didn't, like, recode this game, they just translated it. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that would have been cut out had Konami localized it. I don't think they would have been willing to give this game like a mature, or maybe a mature rating, but some of the stuff makes me think it would have been AO, which I don't even know what would have got you into that adults only rating, but I could see this getting in there. So yeah, it's quite an experience, and it is quite an adult game. There is nothing like this that I can think of that would have been around in 1996 outside of like Snatcher, but this is even like this is taking it to a whole nother level. So it's great. So I'm really grateful for the team for translating this. It's just it's a real, must have been a real labor of love, because I can imagine translating all of that text and then putting it into context, because Japanese is just so much different than English, so having to like get the raw translation and then translate it again to make it more fluid, I'm sure they had to do. I can't imagine. So I just really want to thank you, the team, Project Ito, for doing this. You guys are awesome. And all right, so yeah, wrapping things up, thanks so much, Project Ito, for translating this. It really must have been a complete labor to do this. I mean, like I was alluding to a second ago, just I can't imagine the drafts that this translation must have gone through. It must have had multiple iterations, because going from just a Japanese translation to the fluidity and what they've given you here, it must have been a lot. So thanks a lot. Really, anyone who's a fan of Hideo, a fan of anime from the 90s, a fan of just cool shit in general, check this out. This game is awesome. I can't recommend it enough. So I really, really hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks again for checking out Bryan's Basement. And I really, really implore you to check out Policenauts. If you haven't played Snatcher before this, it doesn't really matter. It's just the spiritual successor, so there's no real story tie-ins there. So go ahead and check this out, give it a go. If you like this a lot, then go back to Snatcher. So, alright. Thanks again for checking out Bryan's Basement, and we'll see you next time.